What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another preseason preview video. In today's video, we're going over the Houston Rockets. In case this is your first preseason preview video of mine that you're seeing, basically what I do is look over the offseason, give a little recap there, and then look into the future and try to see what we can expect from this team going into the season. I'm going to be dropping a video on all 30 NBA teams, so make sure you check out the channel to see the ones I already have uploaded and subscribe so you don't miss the ones going forward. Without further ado, though, let's just jump right in for the Houston Rockets. Last season, they're coming off one of the biggest success in the NBA. I would say besides the Detroit Pistons, the Rockets were the biggest success story in the NBA. They were the second seed out west. They finished with a record of 52-30, and that is super impressive and surprising because going into last year, people didn't really have a lot of expectations for the Houston Rockets. The year before that, they were looked at as just like a young, up-and-coming, fun type of team. No one expect them to be the 2 seed. No one expect them to go into the playoffs and really be trouble for the Golden State Warriors. They brought them all the way to 7 before they fell in the first round. And there's a lot of reasons why that happened, like Amen Thompson having a breakout year, like Alperen Sengun being a first-time All-Star. Again, really successful year last year, but I really think that that's just the building blocks because this year they're poised to have an even better year. And that brings us right into the offseason of the Houston Rockets. Before we talk about the guys they brought in, I do want to give a quick highlight to the guys they lost. Obviously, they made a big trade. I won't talk about for who just yet, but in that trade, they shipped away Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, 2 real key contributors, 2 starters on this team last year. Both of those guys got shipped away to Phoenix. And real quick, I do want to say, I know Jalen Green had a really rough playoffs, and that's putting it lightly, to be honest. He had like one game where he was looking good. Besides that, really inefficient, really inconsistent. And I do think that that was kind of what triggered the Rockets to say, all right, he's the odd man out. Because when you look at this roster, they have a lot of young talent like Alperen Sengun and Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr. They have loads of guys in this core. And I think that Jalen Green, unfortunately, was a casualty to this young core because, like I said, super inconsistent. They kind of set their vision on what this team could look like when they are on that top level of contention. Jalen Green was the odd man out, and that's the reason he got traded. And that's no disrespect to Jalen Green. I do think that Jalen Green is going to be a good, valuable NBA player in this league. He is a starter caliber player. Some people even say he's an all-star caliber player. That's yet to be seen. But I do think that no Houston Rockets fan is really crying over the loss of Jalen Green, especially when we consider who they brought in. And I kind of have the same sentiment for Dillon Brooks. I think he was a great guy to come here and start to change that winning culture for Houston. I think he is a very valuable defender and a high-level starting caliber player in the NBA. Again, though, when you talk about what you're giving up to what you're bringing in, I think the value is there. I think it was a no-brainer trade. But shout out Dillon Brooks for really coming here and really changing the culture of the Rockets. That wasn't the only trade the Rockets made, though. They also shipped off Cam Whitmore to the Washington Wizards in exchange for 2 second-round picks. So obviously, it's not as big as a deal, nowhere comparing. But still, Cam Whitmore, it was kind of obvious this move was coming. He fell out of the rotation for Ime Udoka. Didn't really fit the scheme that Ime wants to run in Houston. I still have pretty high hopes for Cam Whitmore. I think he's an incredible scorer, great athletic guy. And now that he's going to Washington, I think he has a chance to really showcase that. And I do want to say, the Rockets came out and said that they could have gotten better, more lucrative deals, but they wanted to send Cam Whitmore somewhere where he can benefit from that too. And I think that, everyone talks about how the NBA is a business and all of this, how it's cold. I do think that it is really dope that the Rockets did that for Cam. They drafted him. It didn't really work out, but they still wanted to set him up in a position where he could still succeed. So shout out to the Rockets for doing good for Cam. And now it is time to talk about the guys the Rockets brought in. And of course, the number one probably biggest move of the offseason, was Kevin Durant coming to the Houston Rockets. That, of course, was the trade that shipped out Jalen Green, shipped out Dillon Brooks, shipped out the 10th overall pick in exchange for Kevin Durant. I made a video when this trade first went down. If you really want my in-depth first type of reaction to this trade, make sure you check that out on the channel. But I've said it then, and I'm still saying it now. I think that this move is absolutely perfect for the Houston Rockets. We saw it in chunks of the regular season, and then even more in the postseason. Their biggest issue was half-court offense. They are a super athletic team. They're a super young team. They are a super defensive team. But when it comes to that half-court offense, things could get a little sluggish at times. And Kevin Durant is one of the greatest, if not the absolute greatest, half-court scorer we have ever seen play the game of basketball. So obviously that's a perfect puzzle piece fix right there. He's going to be able to come in and really help the Rockets get some of those looks off, whether that's in the mid-range from his three-point shot. We all know Kevin Durant can score on every spot on the floor. And even beyond the on-court, tangible stuff that Kevin Durant brings to the Rockets, I think a super important part is his leadership and his championship pedigree. I was just talking about how Dillon Brooks got traded, and he was one of the guys that really shifted this culture, was one of their vets in the locker room. They still have other guys like a Fred VanVleet or a Jeff Green, but I think Kevin Durant coming here, he can really be a leader to this team and to a lot of these young players and really help them elevate their games and make sure that they know what it takes to win a championship in the NBA. KD wasn't the only vet that the Rockets brought in, though. They also signed Dorian Finney-Smith to a 4-year, $53 million deal, so he'll be making about $13 million for the next 4 years. This was a super under-the-radar, or unexpected, rather, signing. I thought it was pretty much a lock that Dorian Finney-Smith was going to re-sign with the Lakers, but when he comes over to Houston, again, he's another kind of like puzzle piece fitting guy here. I think he just comes in and does exactly what the Rockets want from their wings. He has size, he has versatility defensively, and number one part of it, he shoots the three ball, because that was another real big issue for the Rockets, was their three-point shooting. Dorian Finney-Smith allows them to add that three-point shooting without giving up these other two things of size and defending. And they're also having a little bit of a homecoming for Clint Capella. He is coming back to the Houston Rockets. He signed a 3-year, $21.5 million deal. This one was very unexpected. I said that about Dorian Finney-Smith, but this Clint Capella thing, I had no idea that this was even in the cards for the Rockets, because obviously they have first-time All-Star Alperen Sengun at that center position. They have Steven Adams, who had a great playoff run. And then they came in and signed Clint Capella. Now, there's two ways of thinking in my eyes for this move. The first one is in the playoffs, we saw them run some double big lineups where it's Alperen Sengun next to a Steven Adams type. So maybe they wanted to bring in a third center just to add to their depth and want to lean more into that double big lineup. Or the other option that I've seen floated around on Twitter and things, are some people said that they just immediately signed Clint Capella to block him from signing from the Lakers. Obviously, we all know the Lakers, one of their biggest holes on their roster was center coming into this offseason. Clint Capella would have been a good quality center for them to sign. If that's the case, I mean, that's a little big brain in my eyes. They're really playing chess here, signing a guy to stop one of their conference rivals from signing it. I don't know if they thought too much into it like that, or maybe they just really wanted Clint Capella on the roster. Either way, he's here, and he is a quality player. And while we're talking about their offseason moves, real quick, I do want to highlight some of the moves they made about players that were already on the roster. First off, they restructured Fred VanVleet's deal. Instead of just accepting his $50 million player option, they reworked it, so he's getting that $50 mil first, but he's also stretching it over 2 years. So he signed a 2-year, $50 million deal where that second year is a player option. So instead of getting 50 M's this year, he chopped that in half to 25. Shout out to Fred VanVleet for really working that out. It allowed them to make a lot of those other moves I just talked about. And then they also re-signed some of their guys to vet minimums. Those guys include Aaron Holiday, Jae'Sean Tate, and Jeff Green. All guys signed a 1-year vet minimum contract. And now that we recap the offseason, let's take a look at a potential depth chart we could be seeing from the Houston Rockets. The starting lineup is looking really good on paper. We have Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun. And then off the bench, we have Aaron Holiday, Reed Sheppard, Tari Eason, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Steven Adams. The first thing that jumps off the page when I look at that screen right there is the amount of versatile and big wings the Rockets have on their roster. In their starting lineup alone, they have Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr. These three guys are super, super interesting players in my eyes because they all do multiple things. I mentioned Amen Thompson's breakout season last year at the beginning of the video. He does so much on the court, whether it's his rebounding, pushing it in transition, which he's one of the best transition players in the NBA right now. Cutting to the basket, his playmaking, he has some really good passes that he can make. Defending, he can guard 1 through 4, basically. He does a lot on the court, and that seems like that is a theme that the Rockets want to run, because Jabari Smith Jr., he rebounds the ball, shoots the ball. I think he's super underrated as a defender, being able to play up and play down defensively. Kevin Durant, we've mentioned his elite level scoring, but also in his older age, he's become more a complete player when you talk about his playmaking or his shot blocking. Does a lot there. And then that versatility still does not stop, because off the bench they have a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith, who I was just talking about, his 3-and-D capability. Also Tari Eason, one of the most energetic players that really will just be, spark plug, but not in the normal scoring sense, but in a energy, force turnovers, get tough rebounds. And because of how versatile those guys are, I could see lineups where damn near all 5 are on the court at once, because you have a guy like Amen Thompson, who is more, like I said, a lengthy wing, but can play point guard. Jabari Smith Jr., last year he looked really good when Alperen Sengun went down and he was playing center, even though he's more of a power forward with length. Then you have Dorian Finney-Smith, Kevin Durant, and Tari Eason kind of just filling out the rest. That is a super long, versatile, switchable lineup that I'm pretty sure we probably will be seeing in this coming season. They're not forced to play like that, though. They still do have true bigs of Alperen Sengun, which I'm a huge fan of. He was a first-time All-Star last year. I don't know if he'll repeat as an All-Star this year, if he'll take another step in his game or not. But regardless, what he does rebounding the ball as a paint presence, posting up, his mid-range shot is there. Playmaking-wise, he does a lot for them as well. I mentioned Steven Adams having his incredible playoff run. He came into the year injured, but as the year went on, he looked like he was more solidified and confident in himself, and that really showed on the basketball court as well. He's one of the best screen setters, one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. It's no doubt that the Rockets have loads of talent. The one position where I feel like they could be lacking a little bit is guard, more specifically off the bench. In this potential rotation, I had Aaron Holiday and Reed Shepherd as their guards off the bench. I'm not 100% confident that that's what it's going to be by the end of the year, but I do think that both of those guys could bring some value. Aaron Holiday, I think, is pretty underrated. I think he is more defensive oriented, though. He'll come in, even though he's only 6 foot tall, he'll compete defensively and be a very good ball stopper. He'll pick someone up full court, chase them around those screens, just be an aggravator. And I think that there is value there, but when you look offensively, he doesn't bring too much to the floor. Reed Shepherd is the guy that they would look to more offensively from the guard off their bench, but he is only going into year 2. Year 1, he didn't really have any concrete playing time, so he's more of a question mark in my mind. I don't know what really to expect. Can he be a top-level 6-man like he was at Kentucky? Yeah, he could. Can he also have a little bit of a disappointing year and not really have that solidified role like he did his rookie season? Yeah, he could. I don't know how much of an issue that will really be, considering they have guys like Fred VanVleet and Amen Thompson in their starting lineup. Also, we've seen before where Kevin Durant plays a little bit of point guard, or Alperen Sengun plays point guard through the post in a Jokic-esque type of way. So I don't know if it'll really be detrimental to them. It's just their biggest weakness that I'm seeing so far. And before we move on, I do want to highlight some notable reserves that didn't make the rotation for me, but are still on the roster and I think could make an impact. The first one, of course, is Clint Capella. I mentioned that it was a little bit weird when they signed him, and as you see right here, he doesn't have a cutout role for him going in, at least in my eyes. But again, I could see them kind of leaning more towards that double big lineup, and there'll be games where they run a 3-center rotation. That could happen. At the worst, though, he is a 3rd-string center that is there in case there's some injuries, or maybe it comes to the trade deadline, they see that his contract is valuable, and he fills up some salary filler, and they get traded away for someone else that really is a contributor. And then also, I want to highlight Josh Okogie real quick. I'm a pretty big fan of Josh Okogie. I love what he brings defensively. Unfortunately, he doesn't bring much more besides that, But defensively and energy-wise, he's a very good player. He just brings a little bit more size than a guy like Aaron Holiday brings. So I could see certain instances where he gets the nod off the bench as that guard, as that defensive-oriented guard, rather, but over a guy like Aaron Holiday. And now it is time to talk about the ceiling, floor, and my expectations for the Houston Rockets. Starting off with their ceiling, I could see them being as good as the number 1 seed. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to kind of guess this out. The Rockets were the number 2 seed last year. They won 50-plus games, and they were a super young team, and they added Kevin Durant. So there's enough there for me with the addition of Kevin Durant, and then also just looking at their team and seeing some potential internal growth where obviously at their ceiling they could be that number 1 seed. They were not close to it because last year the Thunder had a pretty big gap on everyone else in the West. But like I said, 2nd seed, added talent. I could see them making that jump. And then when you talk about the playoffs, I mean, this might be a hot take. I don't know really what other people in the community and just in the NBA world are thinking about it. In the playoffs, though, at their ceiling, I could see the Houston Rockets being NBA champions. That's how high I am on them. I think that they're still going to be elite defensively. I think that they have some really high-quality young pieces that will be better this year. And then again, you add Kevin Durant into that. I don't think I mentioned it yet in the video, but I do think that this team on paper is the best roster that Kevin Durant has been a part of, besides the Warriors. Obviously, those Warriors teams were unfair. If you exclude those, though, when you talk about the Phoenix Suns or the Brooklyn Nets, even some of those Thunder teams, I think on paper, this Rockets team is the most talented. Then when you look at their floor, I can see them being as low as the 5th seed. This says more about how talented the Western Conference is than how bad or how low I think the Rockets could be. I think that they are solidified, locked as one of the best teams in the Western Conference. There's just a lot of really good teams in this Western Conference, so at their floor, I could see them being as low as the 5th seed. But for playoffs, I do think that even if they fall to that 5th seed, they can pull off the upset of the 4-5 matchup, even though it's usually a pick'em in that series. I think that they could win that one. When you look further on, though, at their floor, I could see them being just a tough 2nd-round exit. But when you talk about my expectations for the Houston Rockets, I expect them to be either that 2 or 3 seed. I'm going to lock them in at that 2 seed, though. Again, kind of like what I was saying about their ceiling, I just am really, really high on this team. I think that they don't really have too many weaknesses and have so much talent. I'm picking them, or I expect them to be the 2nd seed. And then for playoff-wise, it would be really tough for me to expect anyone to dethrone the OKC Thunder, but I do expect this Rockets team to have a very deep playoff push and make it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Whatever happens there, I don't know, but I do expect them to make it that far. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments below how far you think the Houston Rockets can make it this year, how far in the playoffs, and then also let me know in the standings, where do you think they'll end off. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social media, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.